Welcome to the Explainer. Go ahead and turn down the lights, get comfortable, and pull up a chair, because today we are breaking down the anatomy of a truly chilling urban legend, the haunted loop. We're going to take a really close look at a classic cyclical curse story, drawing directly from the terrifying tale of the haunted train. We'll be analyzing exactly how it builds suspense, how it isolates its protagonist, and ultimately how it constructs a narrative trap from which there is absolutely no escape. Okay, to kick things off, I want you to put yourself right in the shoes of our protagonist for a second. Imagine you're standing completely alone on this freezing, dimly lit railway platform. It's the dead of winter, the train you've been waiting for is running 3 hours late, finally it arrives, but as it rolls to a stop, you notice it is completely, unnaturally empty. Do you get on? This is the deeply unsettling choice our protagonist, Jatin, faces.
Okay, let's dive into this. Right before Jatin makes his fateful decision to step onto that train, a beggar resting beneath the foot-over bridge approaches him with a chilling piece of advice. Take care of yourself. Do not speak to any stranger. Now, this isn't just throwaway dialogue to set the mood, right? This eerie quote establishes a profound sense of dread right from the very beginning of the story. It signals to us that the danger isn't just physical. There are hidden rules to this impending nightmare, and Jatin is already walking into a trap he simply doesn't understand.
Section 1. The isolated setting. Pune's Chinwood Station at midnight. If you study horror at all, you already know the genre relies fundamentally on isolating the protagonist from safety, from logic, and really from the safety of the herd. And we can see exactly how this isolation trap is meticulously set. It's a brisk December night right at midnight. The Mumbai-Pune Express has been delayed by 3 grueling hours. Because of that delay, all the other passengers have given up and found alternate transport. Jatin is literally the absolute last passenger waiting. His sheer physical exhaustion completely overrides his natural survival instincts. When that impossibly empty train rolls in, logic should tell him to run away, but extreme fatigue simply tells him to board. Which actually brings us right back to that beggar on the platform. The beggar stirs the role of the harbinger. This is a classic horror archetype, often a marginalized or overlooked figure who delivers a dire warning that the protagonist tragically ignores. By failing to heed the beggar's warning to avoid strangers, Jatin essentially seals his own fate before his foot even touches the floor of the train carriage. The threshold has already been crossed.
Section 2. The Phantom Passenger. A journey into the unknown.
So Jatin boards the last coach, catches his breath, takes a seat to enjoy the cold breeze from the window, and then slowly, horrifyingly realizes he isn't alone. And this brilliantly illustrates the masterful escalation of psychological terror. Step 1. He registers that the typically packed Mumbai-Pune train is unnaturally completely empty. Step 2. He looks out the window, but there is only pitch-black darkness outside. No stations appear, and the train just keeps moving. And finally, step 3. He realizes a stranger sitting across the aisle isn't just a fellow late-night traveler. Suddenly, the illusion drops. The stranger has a crushed head, and blood is streaming from his eyes. The nightmare is now undeniably real. Section 3. The tragic backstory, a 20-year grudge. But, why is this phantom even here? Well, we have to juxtapose the intense supernatural horror Jatin is facing right now with the cold, linear facts of a brutal murder that took place exactly 20 years ago. At 12 a.m., a man boarded this exact delayed train with just a few other passengers. By 12:10 a.m., a physical altercation over seating broke out with a group of drunk men. At 12:15 a.m., things turned fatal. He was violently thrown from the moving train and his head struck an electric pole. And tragically, at 12:20 a.m., he fell into the tracks and was crushed by a second oncoming train. It's violent, it's sudden, and it's utterly tragic. Because the consequence of that brutal night, it's eternal. For 2 whole decades, this victim's spirit has been trapped in a time loop, relentlessly searching the empty train for the killers who took his life. And this reveals the deep tragedy beneath the horror. It shows us that the ghost isn't just some mindless monster. He is quite literally as much a prisoner of this metal carriage as Jatin is tonight.
Section 4. The Price of Liberation. The Inescapable Loop.
But here's the thing, knowing a ghost's tragic backstory doesn't actually save you. The tension really spikes again here because the ghost makes his intentions perfectly clear. He no longer just wants to terrify Jatin. He is desperately seeking mukti. He wants salvation. The phantom looks at Jatin, the blood dripping onto Jatin's clothes, and says with this eerie, dead calmness, "I need salvation. Can you give it to me?"
In the architecture of supernatural horror, deals like this always come with devastating fine print. The spirit needs an out, and unfortunately for Jitin, salvation requires a sacrifice. So, the crucial point here is Jitin's absolutely impossible choice. On one side, he can take the ghost's place, becoming the eternal haunting spirit of the train, forever trapped in the dark, riding the rails. On the other side, if he refuses the deal, his story will simply end violently at the very next stop. It is a brilliant no-win scenario. Highlighting the sheer psychological weight of this trap really shows us why this urban legend is so incredibly effective. Because the inescapable logic of the curse is just brutally simple and unyielding. First, the ghost's domain, this phantom train, has run continuously since that deadly night 20 years ago. Second, every time a new passenger boards, they are forced to confront this horrific fate. And third, the only possible escape is through substitution. The paranormal threat here doesn't even feel like magic. Actually, scratch that. It feels more like a cold, hard, unbending law of physics. Section 5. An endless curse. The cycle continues. Now, what's really interesting about this whole setup is how it forces us into the devastating climax. Jatin looks out that pitch-black window. The train is never going to stop. The dark window offers no hope, no rescue, and no dawn. Defeated, he accepts the deal. The very moment he speaks the words, the violently speeding train suddenly halts. A chilling wind fills the cabin, and the bleeding spirit smiles and dissolves into thin air. Jatin sacrifices his own humanity, tethering his soul to the train just to survive the immediate, unbearable terror of the moment. But right before the freed spirit completely fades away, he leaves Jatin with one final, damning promise. Your liberation will come when someone else boards. Wow, it's just a terrifying reflection of the story's structure. The cursed loop remains completely unbroken. The original ghost finally gets his freedom, sure, but the trap is simply reset. And that brings us directly back to you. Jatin is now the ghost. He's the one condemned to ride the rails, waiting in the dark at the next station. Imagine standing on a foggy platform, checking your watch. That empty, delayed train pulls up in the dead of night. When the doors hiss open, will you be the one boarding? It's a lingering chill that proves exactly why this urban legend endures. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Until next time, stay safe and maybe think twice about boarding an empty train.